Okay, this is the number 37 of 3.2, and this was a tricky one. You have to go back and kind of review the intermediate value theorem for derivatives, and I kind of did an example down here to kind of go over that again, just so you can see this. This was the intermediate value theorem, the IVT for derivatives, and basically what this says, if you go back and look at it, it says if A and B are any 2 points in an interval on which f is differentiable, so this is a nice interval, A and B are 2 points on this interval, on which f is differentiable, then f prime takes on every value between f prime of A and f prime of B. So this was an example. In other words, if I looked at this right over here at A, it looks like the derivative or the slope is -1. At B, it looks like the slope is 1. So as I go from -1, you can see how the slope has got to equal every value. Here's -1, it gets less negative, and it becomes 0, then it becomes positive, +1. So the slope would take on all these values. That's all they're saying. Okay? Now the function in question is this function here. This is the step function. It's a step function. And it says f of x equals 0 between -1 and 0, not including 0, and equals 1 from 0 to 1, including 0. So it looks like this. And what they want to show that this function is not the derivative of any function on this interval, -1 to 1. Well, if we let A be any point in this interval, -1 to 0, and let B be any point in the interval 0 to 1, all right? Then the intermediate value theorem for derivatives says if A and B are any 2 points in an interval on which f is differentiable, then f prime takes on every value between f prime of A and f prime of B. Well, if we look at this, if this is going to be the derivative, f prime of A would be 0, and f prime of B would be 1. And the theorem says that if this was the derivative, it would have to take on every value between 0 and 1. Well, this function only equals 0 and 1. It doesn't take on any value in between 0 and 1. So therefore, you could say, now you have to think about this. This is a tough one. F prime of A equals 0, F prime of B equals 1, but f of x does not take on any value between 0 and 1 on this interval, -1 and 1. I wrote down here, it is only equal to 0 or 1, not any number in between. So therefore, it cannot be the derivative of any function on this interval. Okay? So that's what you've got there. So I had a faux pas here. This should be FUNCTIO, any function. Okay? So that makes sense. You see all my whiteouts because I use ink. But at least you can kind of get the gist of what's going on. And I thank Mr. Rea for the whiteout he gave me. It really comes in handy. All right? So hope that makes sense. So again, this is your intermediate value theorem for derivatives. And again, think about it again. If this is a differentiable function, and this is A and this is B, then it will take on, all right, f prime, the derivative takes on every value between f prime of A and f prime of B. That makes sense. I can't get there by skipping points, or by skipping slopes. Slopes will smoothly kind of transform from -1 to +1. Okay? So think about that theorem.